Hello, good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it may be for you. I hope you are having a wonderful day so far, and if not, hopefully it'll end on a high note. Obviously, you can read the video title, so I'm just going to get right into it. My name is Megan Beach, and I was in the classroom the 2019 UNC Charlotte shooting happened in, and this is my story. So, yeah, I'm just going to get right into it, and I like to close my eyes when I tell my story, so that's what I'm going to do. April 30th, 2019. It was Tuesday, the final Tuesday of the semester, the last day of class. It started out like any other Tuesday. I had my morning class of the day. That went well. Went to my dorm, had some lunch, worked on a little bit of readings and assignments, and then got ready for my final class of the day, final class of the semester, and final class of the academic year. Just really excited to finish strong and yeah, just finished this last class. Took my usual route to get there from my dorm. Went to the Kennedy building is where the classroom was, room 236. I went up the front steps through the first set of doors, and then you like walk a little bit. There's a second set of doors. Then you turn left, go through the classroom door, and where I sat, so we were in tables. There's like tables all around the room because we did a lot of group work with those who were at the table with us. So I take my usual seat and just really wait for class to begin. Talked a little bit with my table mates, and then class got started just like any other class would get started. Professor said a little bit about like the final and the final presentations, final assignments, all that. And we were doing some of the final presentations that day, but other groups were going to go actually during like the finals week. My group was going that finals week. So I wasn't actually presenting that day. I was just present in the room. Professor gets the first group set up. They have a video presentation, and this is like a bigger classroom, so there's like multiple screens to like out the room. And I'm just watching the screen like right in front of me. The door that I came in, it's not really in frame, like my iframe. It's like right here, and then there's like another door down there, and these are both just like single doors. So we're watching that first presentation, their video project that they did, and I remember just sitting back in my chair and just reflecting on the semester, on my first year at UNC Charlotte, because I was actually a transfer student. I did community college for 2 years, and I came to UNC Charlotte. So this was my first year at UNC Charlotte. So I was just really in the present moment, just really like happy with how the year went and how this semester went, and just excited to finish strong. And after this class, there was going to be like last day of class events going on. So I was very excited for those. And I remember just sitting there in my chair, just comfortable, happy, excited, just feeling all these positive emotions just like rushing through me. And then out of nowhere, three loud, ear-splitting bangs rang throughout the classroom. I froze up, my ears started to like ring and buzz and like hurt, and then like they actually lost like hearing for a little bit. I wasn't able to hear again until after I was actually out of the Kennedy building. So shots rang out, I freeze up, and I'm just like in shock and in fear and in panic. And then that same panic takes over like the entire classroom. It just erupts into complete chaos. And everyone is now rushing towards the exit, trying to get out while the shooter is just shooting at us. So the shooter is not at the door next to me. He came in the back door, and he's basically blocking that one. So everyone is rushing to this one door that's like by where my table was. And I remember getting up in rushing to that door as well, being like among some of the first students that got there. And when there's so many people just like piling at one door, you start like piling on each other. And I remember falling right on my knees, like right literally in the door frame to where I could see the hallway where it was like not chaos and it was like safety and it was freedom like out there. I could also see in the classroom where everything was still going on, where people were getting shot, injured, bleeding, screaming. It was just all that violence that was going on in that classroom. I remember falling so hard on my knees that they were actually bleeding out onto the classroom floor. I remember I was like right there, and people were just like running over me. Everyone was just like trying to get out of the room, trying to get to safety and get away from the shooter. I just remember being in so much pain and so much fear. I thought of my family, of my friends, of things I wanted to do that evening, of things I wanted to do with my life, and just feeling all of that slipping away. I remember thinking to myself, it's over, as in my life is over. I don't want to say I like accepted that I was gonna die. I don't have a better word, so there's just this moment of it's over. Like I'm such an easy target. I'm literally just on the floor. Like I can't move. I'm in so much pain. I don't think I can get up and run. So there was that moment where I just really thought I was going to die. Then the trampling, it became less. People started to get out of the room, get out of the building. I could see and watch people do that. I eventually like tried to get up. I didn't get like fully up. I don't know how to describe it. Like kind of like halfway up, like kind of crawling, and started to like crawl out of the room and to the like first set of double doors. I remember pushing on that with like all my might and just like how heavy everything felt and how like hard it was to walk. I made it through that one and I was just like stumbling to the next one. Made it through that one and like right outside I just remember like grabbing onto this to the railing to go down the stairs. I was just in so much pain and I just did not know where to go or what to even do. Like, what do you even do in that moment? 'Cause it's like, you know what's going on, but the world is just continuing. So I actually saw one of my table mates and I started to follow him. And we went into the next building over, which was the Career Center building attached to the library. And I remember it was like you walk in and normally there's like people there and they'll help you with like your resume or cover letter, like kind of like career stuff. And it was just like no one was there and it was so weird. I guess they were like closed. But we kept like walking down like a hallway and we found like I guess it was like a workshop. Like it wasn't a class. It was like a workshop. And we went in there and we were like, there's a shooter, there's a shooter. And so we ended up like crouching in that room against like the wall at first. And like this was not a wall, y'all. It was like they were doing construction, so it was like I want to say like drywall. I don't think that's right. I don't know the right term for what this wall was, but it was not a wall. And I remember like literally like touching it and be like, this is not safe. We are not staying here. So we actually went to a different room, which was a lot smaller. It was like a professor or staff's office. It was like his chair, his desk, just some shelves with like books on them. So we all go in there. There's about like, I want to say like 12 of us. Like it wasn't 15, but it wasn't 10. So I'll go with 12. I don't remember exactly. It's like a mix of students and some adults. And we actually pushed the shelves in front of that doorway to completely like barricade us in. And we were in there for what felt to me like hours. Because shootings, they apparently are only like a couple seconds or a couple minutes, but when you're in them, they just feel like an eternity. Everything just feels like so real, and you're so like alert in fight or flight mode. I just remember being in there, and there were some like tissues, so I was patching up like my knees to stop the bleeding. And eventually the police came, and they had gotten to the shooter by then. Because me and the guy in the room, I don't want to say his name, I want to keep people anonymous, but because we had like been in the room, we had to go with the police to give witness statements. So I was just like telling the police everything I saw, everything I heard, just like giving them all the information I could for this case. And they actually took those of us who were witnesses to this abandoned building across the street. Well, it's not technically abandoned. It becomes one of those Halloween stores every year. It used to be a clothing store, but like when it's not Halloween, it's basically abandoned. So we were in there, and they were just like, again, we were telling the police what we saw, what we heard, so they could gather information. And then after that, they were like, you can go, like, that's it. And I was just like, go where? Do what? Like, what now? My whole life has been shaken up. I don't even know, like, what to do or, like, anything. Yeah. I didn't really sleep that night. Couldn't really sleep, honestly. I just remember crying a lot the next few days, and just the reality like sunk in, and it was so hard to like eat and sleep. I just remember some of my family came to visit, and just like being close to friends in those days, and just really just being present in the moment. And yeah, I think that's a good place to stop. And now some things I want people who have not been impacted by this violence to know. First, which was a major reason I made this video, is just to listen to survivors without assuming our position on gun control or guns, or trying to put us all into a box, because every survivor is different. And while surviving an act of gun violence is a part of us, it's not all there is to us. I've met survivors who are completely different than me, have different views, lead very different lives. And that's the thing. This type of violence can happen anywhere, at any time, to anyone. While I'm on this point, I think it's also important to know that when someone just got shot, or they just watched someone get shot, or they're grieving someone they lost, when someone is so deep in their pain and their grief, that's not the time to debate them about their position on any of the things I just mentioned. What may just be another conversation to you is something that is so deep and so personal to us, and takes a lot more of an emotional toll on us. It can be a very triggering topic for many, because a lot of survivors struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. We are people with feelings learning to cope and heal. And now to my third point. I know there's going to be people watching that are very big into guns and gun culture. And this point ties into my first, which is listening, because surviving a shooting does not mean someone is anti-gun or going to come take your guns. I have lots of friends and family who own guns, and I understand the reasons. So just don't assume someone's political views or position, because like I said, survivors, we're all different. We're not the same. Another thing I want people to know is it continues to impact you long after it leaves the news, even if it even makes the news. There's the healing physically, and then mentally and emotionally. There's the healing from the trauma, from the grief, learning to navigate traumatic grief, which is different than other types of grief, and so it needs different care. It's not one is worse than the other, because trauma, grief, all of that is not a competition, and we all deserve recovery. There's also like hypervigilance. There's a lot that goes into surviving an act of gun violence that people don't realize. And for a lot of folks, this impacts them months, even years later. Like I still have scars 5 years later now from this. It really stays with you. You never forget, but you learn to manage. And I think that's a good lead into how I want to conclude this video, which is a letter that I wrote to other survivors. The letters others shared helped me, so I wanted to end with my letter in the hope it'll reach and help another who's been impacted and make you feel less alone. It's actually handwritten, so here goes. Dear future survivor, my name is Megan, and I'm a survivor of the UNC Charlotte shooting. I was watching a final presentation alongside my classmates when, out of nowhere, 3 loud, ear-splitting bangs rang throughout our classroom. I froze, my ears started to hurt, then went silent, and fear and panic overtook me. I was trampled as we all fled through one door, because the shooter was at the other door. I managed to pull myself up and run to the next building over, where I barricaded an office with some other students and some staff. The shots continued long after my hearing temporarily went out, with 6 of my classmates getting shot and injured, and 2 lost their lives that day, Parlier and Riley Howell. I want people to know that they were both heroes who fought and held on for as long as they could, gasping for air and bleeding onto a classroom floor where they should have been safe. A place where death never should have happened. I still don't understand, and I still find myself startling at loud, sudden noises. I often find myself sitting near a door in case I need to run again, because this was not my first experience with gun violence. These acts of violence are terrible. Something terrible has happened. Something awful has happened. And it was not your fault, even if others did not survive. It's not your fault that they died, and you don't have to feel guilty for surviving. Your body, your nervous system did everything it was designed to do to protect you, keep you safe, and keep you alive. Make no mistake, they were here and it mattered. You are here and it matters. There are no easy answers to healing from gun violence, but know this. In time, you will get stronger. The memories and the pain will have less of a hold on you. You will learn how to manage your triggers. You will find what works for you and learn how to move through the emotions. While you will never forget, you will grow and learn and become someone who can handle this, someone who can carry this. Because some things we don't get over, but instead we learn how to move through them. April 30th doesn't scare me anymore, and I have grown into someone who can carry this. I feel certain that a part of me died that day, but even more than that, I am certain of a resurrection, of a coming age in which every tear will be wiped away, pain will be no more, and death will be a thing of the past, where we will be gathered up with those who have gone before us. And know that I wouldn't tell you these things unless I felt certain they were true, as a former non-believer. I know the fragility of life, but now, more than that, I know the strength of life. I'm sure you do too. We are survivors, but we are so much more than that. And those we lost are so much more than data or statistics or a number. I am so much more than someone who survived a shooting, and Reed and Riley are so much more than people who died in a shooting. The same goes for you and anyone you lost as well. They know you love them, even if you never got the chance to say goodbye. You're going to see, hear, encounter things that remind you of the trauma you experienced. It'll hurt, and memories may come rushing back. None of that means you are weak, or that you haven't healed, or that you're stuck in the past. It simply means you're human, and there is nothing wrong with that. You're allowed all the time you need to process what you experienced as you learn how to cope. Healing is not easy, and it is definitely not linear. But know that you don't have to do this alone. Plenty of us have gone through the same emotions you are currently experiencing, and we are ready to support you however we can. I'll link some resources in the video description below. You are never alone, and you are stronger and braver than you could ever imagine. And I am so proud of you. Sending love and prayers, Megan.